kind of like virtual sessions where you can't even see the people you're talking to being actually this much fun. But as a participant, I've been really enjoying it, and it feels like a real conference. So kudos to you guys. It's been great. I figured like I'll start with a little bit about myself, just to kind of, you know, the odd one out in the group, because I'm not actually a cybersecurity marketer, although I definitely play one a lot in terms of the way I think and have to deal with various issues in my life. So my name is Mimi Gross, and I'm the founder of a recruiting firm. It's very boutique. We specialize specifically in building sales and marketing teams. And then we like to really, really hone down. And so not only that, but we focus only on early stage cybersecurity startups. So if you can think about what's the total market that we could be hitting, it's not large, but that's actually a part of what my approach is, that I really have kind of like my 10-year vision, let's say, is to actually know on a personal level most of the people that would be in my universe. And I think when you get a sliver like that, that could be a possibility. I already know so many people, and it's very gratifying. So, I've often been seduced out into like interesting AI stuff and whatever, but always coming back to cyber. I love it. So, and I'm sure some of you probably have that experience, like being recruited and it sounds cool and maybe, or completely frustrated with cybersecurity marketing because it's probably one of the hardest things to market. So just in terms of my, who I work with, I'm very careful about, which startups I do work with. And the truth is I actually use a lot of what I'm going to share today, and a lot of what I got out of the meetings that I had in preparation for this. I did like 10 investigative interviews to get some juicy tidbits for you guys. And I use that in my own practice. I have to decide on a daily basis how much of my time to invest in any number of my 12 to 15 searches that are going on at one time. And we have just a few employees, and I do a lot of the heavy lifting on the relationship side. So, so this year made over 20 placements in the space, most of those marketing roles. And then, just kind of what our token philosophy is that, at any point, integrity is the path to success. It's the path to money, it's the path to happiness, and it's the path to success. And so that is really the guiding kind of philosophy behind how I do recruiting. I like to call it matchmaking, but at the end of the day, I can't hide. I'm a recruiter. That's what I do. So questions to ask before joining a startup. I'm going to show you something that someone sent me on Twitter when I asked them this. So this is one of those super famous 20 exits, superstars. So he gives this great list, current revenue, what's the burn rate, do you have product market fit, what's the sales distribution plan? So intelligent. I mean, these are good questions. You need to ask these. Here's a few others. What percent of the company do the options, do the options that you've offered me represent? Can you explain to me this really complicated, sort of ambiguous options plan that you've just explained? Can you do that? So I just want to pause there. If this was all I had, I'd be okay, I hope this was helpful. Have a wonderful day. But yeah, this is what it looks like. So I just want to give you a window if you kind of go in on an interview. Sound.
Actually, that range is set at corporate.
What about mileage when I use my car? I mean, gas ain't cheap,
We think that 25 cents a mile is pretty generous.
How about 27? And when I make long-distance calls, will it be monitored, or is it on the honor system?
Okay. Okay, so don't do that. Those questions are important questions. And I guarantee you VCs do ask those questions. But for my many talks with VCs, that is not the first questions. Those are the due diligence questions. Those are your own research questions. Maybe even once you have an offer in your hands. The point of why these are not good questions to ask right away, or even in your mind to let these have a huge impact on whether you decide if this is a company you want to be with, is because those questions won't inform you if you're going to be happy or fulfilled or most importantly, successful in the role. So now it kind of leads us into the thesis of what I said, we're going to be talking about, is my argument that thinking like a VC in a couple different ways. And what I found in my research is that that's not always what you would initially think. I think I would have thought that's what VCs ask. The first VC meetings, from what I gathered, are completely different. But my argument is that you have to think like a VC. So why am I doing that? Why am I encouraging you to do that? Another fun video.
Hey, you want to get this job today?
You damn right I do.
Can I give you a little tip? Huh?
Let's do it.
You're gonna go in. He'll be up here, okay? You're down here, right? He's on top. He's asking you the questions.
Uh-huh.
And then all of a sudden the interview starts. He asks some questions, you answer some questions, and then you start asking him the questions and you flip it. Now he's trying to impress you.
Turn that shit around on him.
Turn it around on him.
Topsy-turvy, that motherfucker.
Yeah.
Why you ain't got no question?
This is why you need to think like a VC. It's probably helpful even if you're applying to a corporate job. But in a VC situation, I would say one of the real red flags is if you feel like they're making you feel that you should be honored to be talking to them about this role. It's sensitive because you want to be classy about this. You obviously don't want to act like a jerk. So it takes a lot of self-awareness to do it right. So you can take it all the way into the persona, but you can also just take it into like what you're looking for, what you're really looking for. The continued arguments about why you're really a VC when you're doing this. When you choose a regular job, you're making the investment of your life's time at that point. You're also, what a VC is doing is that they're bringing all this capital from somewhere else and they're investing it somewhere and they're expecting it to grow. That's literally what you're doing with your entire career, your entire life up until now. You're taking all of that skill and you're going to be investing it and throwing it into this. And if it's not going to be the vehicle for your rapid career growth, and then hopefully, if you pick the right company, your rapid financial growth, is it worth it? Like, where could you have been if you weren't here? So the actual approach of this being an investment is important. And it's different than looking for like a dream job, because startups aren't necessarily going to be fun at all times. So it has to be something that you really feel like you can withstand the time and the test. So this talk is based on really like a lot of great talks. And I just want to let you all know that I will be posting kind of like a post promo, the best of each of these. I mean, I can tell you like Patrick McBride from the CMO Beyond Identity, Nathan Burke from CMO at Sonius, and then I spoke to a bunch of venture capitalists, VP of Marketing, Raphael Reich, and all different perspectives. I'm telling you, I had the gold nugget stamp every time they gave me one. So those will be posted as really short videos after this. So I have to apologize in advance. A lot of them said some of the similar things. So if I say something in a way that somebody said it and I somehow didn't attribute it, I'm just going to apologize in advance, and hopefully that'll be rectified when we show the videos. So these are the people that I spoke with, and you'll be hearing, mainly questions that they like to ask and how they will approach any situation that they're in front of. So the main thing that you do want to ask and that you do want to know about is you want to know what the problem is. You want to know, this is Nathan Burke, because he completely invented this, and it's the best way to describe this. You have a nagging problem. A nagging problem is a place where you want to go with an early stage startup. Now, a nagging problem is different than a burning problem, and it's different than a visionary problem, like something that somebody sees being a problem maybe down the line. You could have preference to join startups with one of those other two problems, but a really exciting place to join an early stage startup is when the problem is nagging. The nagging metaphor is perfect. It's like, you think a kid pulling on your arm, you can handle it. You can still do your work while it's happening. This is such like a COVID friendly metaphor. You can do your work. You can even like be on your Zoom. You can press mute for a second. You can do all kinds of tricks to like get through the day, but it's just getting worse. The kid's just growing up. Long term, this thing needs to be addressed. And so the first person to come in and address it, and who's going to address it, this is also Nathan, in the simplest way possible, that's going to be a great solution. So that's when I'm speaking very, very, very broadly about how you ask about the solutions. I have a little more when we get further down. I'll show you some more interesting questions you can ask. But when Nathan said that, the idea that it's a nagging problem and that the solution has to be simple, everything else about this part of the questioning went out the door for me. Now, that's obviously an opinion. So that could be an interesting, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. So, because it just says to me, it's the perfect way to know that you're going to be able to talk to people. You're going to be able to call up a potential customer, and you're going to say like, you have this problem, right? And you're going to get them to like dump on you, and you're going to get them to give you feedback, and you're going to get them to tell you what is going to be a great solution. You're going to get to ask them if they would use your solution, etc. So those are, kind of those two pieces. They're simple. It's like, what are we dealing with? Obviously, there's nuances. You want to look at the technology. You want to ask about the technology. And you want to see how they're solving it. Now, the next piece is where I was surprised in my research to find how much of the process was completely focused on the founder persona. And, looking back at my own experiences with over like 25 different companies so far, I kind of got what they were saying. There was some metaphors about dating and, the idea that, like you have a date, you're really excited. This like seems like it's going great. You go home, you're thinking about it. You're hoping somebody doesn't like get in there first. Those are feelings that VCs have about an investment that they've encountered. And that's just a snippet. And then another snippet is like, another one said to me, just when you meet a founder and they know how to talk to a VC and they know how the system works and they just like know their shit, like there's something there. That's an important piece. I got another from Sugam, and those two were actually both from Tal Zakon from F2 Ventures. And Sugam Sarim, who's such a thoughtful guy, he works for American Express Venture Capital. And he said, what we like to look for is a founder who can sell. And you can know that very quickly. The pitch, just have them give you the pitch. If the founder can sell with passion, the company has a huge, huge like benefit, because if that founder can sell in times that are rough, then you're good. You're good. That's going to get you through a lot of the rough times in a startup. So that was one of their number one things. They want to know that the founders can sell. Another nuance that I thought was interesting that I heard quite a bit is like basic popularity, like basic charisma that they like to see. And I do have a slide that gets a little more specific about this that I'll show you in a minute. But just that basic charisma of they can attract good people to join. They know how to communicate what they're doing. And that was fascinating. I heard that from like 3 different people. One of the other pieces, so I'm just gonna say a couple weird ones. So these are questions like I would ask myself after meeting a founder. So I'm gonna go into, I'm gonna skip this for now, but this is really funny. And so we will do that. But this is kind of like what I'm gonna be giving you guys. And this is a collection of questions that I just extracted from all of my conversations. So I wanna just focus on the founder middle part. And this came up almost consistently with everybody. Like, why are they doing this? This is something you can ask in an interview. It's a really nice question. You know, you want to show them that you're interested in them. That's like a home run. If you can get them to share with you, that's like Larry David. There you go. You have the upper hand there. You know, why are they doing this? What motivates them to do this? Then the next question a lot of VCs have is, why these people? What's their background? Have they done this before? Why is there a chance that they will be able to be successful? And you want to be able to pinpoint something there. The next one, this is from TJ Gonen, whose Protego Labs just got acquired by Checkpoint. He said, if you want to have a beer with them, like, actually, I think he said this in the opposite. It's like, if you go into a meeting with a founder and you walk out and you're like, I would not have a beer with that person. That's maybe put that in the red flags, but I figured like, that's something. And I hope that, you know, you guys don't feel like, oh God, I came for some really solid things and I'm getting this fluff. But I can't tell you how incredibly focused the VCs were on vibe and personality and like the softer things. So I figured I'll go in and I'll really share that with you guys. And, you know, if anything, it's validating because it's human. So the next one is like, you know, can they sell, which is, you know, referencing Sugam's preference. Another one is, can you learn from them? And that came to me from Patrick McBride with Beyond Identity. He just joined a company that is founded by Jim Clark, who is invented Netscape. He's like had many exits. And I mean, he's kind of like top of the line in terms of founder. He's literally a billionaire. And Patrick said, like, this is a team that like I can learn from, and knowing maybe what you are looking for career-wise, what you want to learn. You don't want to join a company where in your heart of hearts, you secretly kind of look down on them. And I think that sounds obvious, but I definitely don't think it is obvious in reality. The next one is, would you follow them into battle? Like, that's literally what you're doing. And a lot of VCs described it that way. The next one is like, this is one of those friendly ones where you can ask them some challenging questions. And a few of them said, be careful that you're always a little friendly, because you can't forget that the startup is their baby. You can't tell anyone that their baby's ugly. You can just ask about stuff that will help you find out what you need to know, but you got to be careful about that, you know, just because you want them to like you. So that's something, you know, there's certain ones of these questions that like, you know, lend to that a little easier. So how did you first see this as a problem? You're making them feel like a genius, like you're the one who saw this problem before anyone else. You know, you do want to know, how did they validate that it was a problem? Some of these flow together, by the way, but these are like actual questions that I got from different people. Now, another one is like, what's the best actionable piece of feedback that they've gotten so far about the product? There's going to be a lot of founders that believe in their product so powerfully that they actually get thrown off by challenges about the product. That goes down into the red flag section. You know, you want to know that this founder is open to what the customer really wants, and that the customer is a huge part of their journey. And you'd be surprised by how many startups get very wrapped up in the technology, because that is the first part of, you know, developing the platform, and somehow they like lose their way on the customer base. And that's something you want to really find a way to verify if you know, if the company has customer bases that is verifying and validating what they're doing. Now, this is like, you can see themes of who said this, but this was TJ Gonin, again, of Protego Labs. He said, did you leave and go tell your significant other that you met somebody really amazing today? So that's another one. Like, it was really uncanny how much it sounded like these VCs are going on like a blind date, and like, did it go great? Did you like kind of almost fall in love at first sight, or, you know, what else happened? So a lot of these metaphors ended up being like that. Now the other one is like, there's a lot of internal questions that you're asking as well. So one of those would be like, when you heard the pitch, did that make you want to buy and sell this product all at once? You're not a salesperson. You're not a target customer, but like, did you suddenly like want to be? And I think that's like an ideal state to be in, but like, you should feel some of that. And then the other element is like, you walk away from the interview, you're probably interviewing in a lot of places, just something stick with you, like literally like after a date with somebody that, you know, something was special. So that's how they described some of those kind of softer questions that they ask. You know, another one that is, you know, that I mentioned, the first question, why are they doing this? That is an important one. You have to be really tactical to try to find that out. But what motivates the founder? There are founders that are motivated by money. There are founders that love the startup game. There are founders who are obsessed with tech. There are founders that are just obsessed with being able to solve a really good problem. So that's one that, you know, you can use your good interpersonal skills to kind of needle around in and try to understand. Now, you probably have noticed that I'm avoiding some more kind of typical questions, like the ones that were on that Twitter feed. It's not that they're not important. A few of the founders mentioned their ways of validating opportunities. And some of them even said that the kind of like excitement and emotion that comes from a first meeting with something that you really are excited by, the validations that's exactly what they're for, to check the excitement, but that the excitement is such a huge piece. So of course they do all these things. They're doing due diligence on the people. They're doing due diligence on the, you know, they're sandboxing the, you know, what they have so far as the product. There's a ton of validation that they're doing, but you're not going to be able to do that if you're applying for a marketing role. So just, you know, like what I got from them is like, wow, I think one of the things that you guys can use as marketers is really those pieces. Like, what does a good founder look like? A couple people like were snarky, and I was like, you know, well, tell me more about like what a good founder looks like. Somebody said, a good founder looks like somebody who can make a good company. So, okay, well, what does that mean? So a couple other kind of areas that I thought are interesting, the questions to ask when you consider joining a startup. I know that it sounded like those were going to be questions you can ask them, but I think really importantly, just leading a lot of people through this process. I think so many of the subtle questions are questions that you can ask that you need to ask yourself. So that's what I labeled as the product, the marketer problem fit. Early stage startups will often have a big gaping problem in the marketing department. Sometimes it's intentional, like I have one client who they just didn't do any marketing because they wanted to focus on the product, and they knew that once they wanted to go to market, the first thing they would do is hire marketing, and then they would go to sales. So they needed everything. Some companies, early stage companies, this happens a lot, it's not a bad thing. They'll have a false start on some messaging, a false start on positioning, and they really need somebody who is deep in the specific space who can pull them out of that. So what I wanted to just talk about for a minute with the marketer problem fit is that I have seen companies like, let's just say, Axonius, Nathan Burke, the best CMO ever, best company to work for. Beyond Identity is another company that just, it's just kind of objective. You have this billionaire founder. It's hard not to think that that's awesome. But I have 25 right now other companies that I work with, and I only work with companies that I think can find good people. And how does that work? The companies who are looking for something, but they know what they need, and they have an ideal, but they know what they need tomorrow, and they're willing to look at somebody good who can take them there. Those are companies that anybody, even a really good marketer, could find a challenge like that to be incredibly exciting and can be incredibly successful with. So it's just about the marketer problem fit, if that makes sense. So the questions that I have here, also emerging from my conversations, is like, are you the one for this particular challenge? Just because they say product marketing challenge, like, you have to know what in the product marketing stack you like to do, like that you can do every day and be happy. Don't ignore them saying they want certain things done, and those are things you don't like to do, but you like the title or you like the company. Like, make sure that the actual things they're asking you to do are what you naturally like to do, and then the things that they're going to need you to do future-wise are things that you want to learn to do. Number 2, are they hearing you? Are they defensive about a challenging question about differentiation? Now, you're a marketer, so messaging is going to be like front and foremost. You should be able to ask like a question about the messaging. And if you're getting a bad reaction to that, just, that's not going to be a good fit. Now, another thing is, like, make sure they're reading your resume well. And if you don't feel that they did, guide them to that. Guide them to what you do, and guide them to what you don't do. Guide them to what you're great at. The next thing is, when they do go after you, and the best thing is to have them go after you. You want to know why they want you, because you know what you're good at, but just make sure you get clarification on that. Like, why do they think you're the right fit for this? And then the one, I'm going to skip one, but then the next one is, will this trigger your latent inner workaholic? And this is like just a personal belief that I have. And it could just be projection because I'm a workaholic, but I think everybody has this like latent workaholic that it gets triggered by like the right challenge that you're excited by. So I think it's human nature. So if you're going to be, blood, sweat, and tears on an early stage startup, you're going to want it to be that thing that, you want to keep doing, like into the night. You kind of have to stop yourself. And then the last thing is, this goes back to our argument that you're a VC. And one of the VCs told me this. He's like, I ask every single one of my Sorry, I am about to die. Excuse me. My computer is about to die. I'm gonna have to pause. I'm so sorry.
Okay, that's no problem.
So you know what? I'll pause on that screen so you guys can just meditate on it. All right, and I will run and get my charger. I was at like 100% at the beginning. Thank you, Mac. You're telling me it's time to get a new computer. Gianna, can you, okay, is that good?
Yeah, you are. I see your screen, Mimi, but your face disappeared. Okay, everybody, just hold on one sec. I think that she'll be back in a second. Feel free to drop questions in the chat box or in the Q&A session while we wait for Mimi to return. She is basically our favorite, the Cybersecurity Marketing Society's favorite recruiter, and she'll have a lot of great answers to all of your basically like how to get a job questions.
Oh, I got to hear that again. It makes me feel so good. Okay, so let's see. Unable to start video. Can you hear me still?
We can hear you. I'll work on the video. You can keep going.
All right, let's get
We can see your screen too.
Okay. All right, so that is, let's see, play. Okay, are you guys, Gianna, can you help me with knowing like what they're saying? Because when it seems like we're getting out of the.
I can see the keynote that is, it's not full screen.
Yeah, it's weird. Let's do. This is exactly what I was doing before.
It's full screen now.
It's going back, but that's okay. I guess I'll just do full, see if I can do full screen here.
Start at the first slide if you have to, and then just switch to the one that you were on.
Play.
There you go.
Oh, okay. I am going to show this one just because it's great. I mean, this is like the whole idea of, you know, I think this was Nathan as well, but I heard this from a number of people, is the idea of this is back to like product market fit, which really would be like a whole other thing that I would love to put together, like a montage of just those things, like how people view the product market fit issue. So this is just a great, really short one.
Okay, Homer, pick out anyone you want.
Are you sure you want to give me a car?
Hey, you know what these things cost me? There's maybe $40 worth of steel in them.
Oh, okay. I'd like a big one then.
We don't have a big one.
Why not?
Because Americans don't want big cars.
Well, then give me one with lots of pep.
Sorry, our cars don't have pep.
Why not?
Because Americans want good mileage, not pep.
Homer, tell the nice man what country you come from.
America.
Do you hear that, you morons? This is why we're getting killed in the marketplace. Instead of listening to what people want, you're telling them what they want. Homer, I need your help.
You do?
Yeah. I want you to help me design a car. A car for all the Homer Simpsons out there. And I want to pay you $200,000 a year.
And I want to let you.
Homer, meet my team of engineers. They're going to build your car.
Hiya, team.
Now, boys and girls, this project is our top.
I don't know.
Here's what you do.
Well, in a Quickie Mart, the cup is this big.
Extremely large beverage holder.
I'm not done yet. You know that little ball you put on the aerial so you can find your car in the parking lot? That should be on every car.
Little ball.
Bubble domes.
I gotta call the boss.
The plant, think of your old man. Yep.
With lots of
Nuts. There's got to be something you can do about that.
Maybe a built-in
bubble dome for the kids.
Any questions?
What does this monstrosity cost?
Jerry, what's the sticker price? $82,000. This monstrosity cost $82,000.
Okay, so I would love to hear. This was where I was like hoping. I didn't realize I wouldn't see anybody, but if anybody has any fun thoughts on how that, speaks to the whole idea of whether a company is like focused on actually addressing the needs, or is just excited about like perceived features that maybe people would want. And I loved that for so many reasons. Anyway, so I'm gonna conclude and then take questions. But the conclusion that I just kind of come to is that, and it's a conclusion of my talks, like what I got from these talks, is how human this is, and how much like I see candidates like very, very focused on some of these like, well, tell me what your burn rate is. This was okay, this is one section I'm going to end this on, because like these are questions people want to know, like and I've seen companies be vague about it that are good companies, like specific questions about the financial health of the company. What's the burn rate? Like you really can't ask the burn rate. They're not going to share that with you in a meaningful way. A deep dive into the options package. You need to find somebody outside to help you look at that. They don't want to talk to you about that. They want to give you something. They probably want to give you something that's good for them. And they want you to go out, decide if it's okay, and come back. They don't want to go over it with you. How well does the product actually work? That's a tricky one because it feels like you should be able to ask that deeply. Now, I would say in early stage startups, you can probably assume the product doesn't work great. So I would ask that question in a positive way. Like, what are customers liking about the product so far? What are the challenges? Now, something you want to be sensitive about is you want to know everything, but be sensitive. This goes back to it's their baby. The challenge, like when you ask challenges that you have to ask, is this a challenge that's going to trigger the founder's worst fears? And if it is going to do that, you have to ask that question like with a spin towards resolution. And if you're asking that question just to like, I don't know, try to trip them up or just show that you're being smart about it, like you're going to freak them out and they're not going to like the conversation with you. Then, right, like I said, remember, this is their baby. Critique with care, but get the info that you need. The go-to-market plan, that's a whole other topic. But like I said, if that's what the VCs had emphasized in my conversations with them, you would have had a whole bunch more there. And so the conclusion here is at the bottom, but it's a little cut off. Let's see. Can you see this?
Yeah, we can see the full screen if you want to flip to that.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to just flip to this. So the bottom part is kind of just where I want to leave you with. And like I said, it's the conclusion from speaking with these people. They were completely focused on their own instincts. Obviously, verify. There's so much verification that goes into making an investment on a VC's part. However, that whole kind of like dating process is essential and means a lot to them. And so that's where I think you guys can take that into your interview processes. So I would do anything for you, like if you join a startup, you're gonna have to feel that. So trust your instincts, let yourself fall in love a little bit, try on the pitch, but then verify research, talk to people, read about the space, read about the spaces around this, speak with regular employees, like do all those kinds of things outside of the conversation. And there will be a lot of conversations, so you can kind of bring some of that information back. The red flags that I heard from VCs, from CMOs, all kinds of things, Discord or also just like an alternate vision between founders. Like if you hear something from one founder about how they want to go to market and it really sounds different than what another one says, like that's a real red flag. Blatant lying. A few of them said, look, there's a lot of inflating of the truth, inflating of like capabilities, but like if somebody flat out lies, like the conversation's over. Like something doesn't feel right. That's literally what they said. like something's off, and whatever, listen to that and try to figure out what that thing is. They can, if you see that they can't answer a lot of these questions thoughtfully, or they don't enjoy answering these questions, that is a red flag, because it sounds like they wouldn't enjoy dealing with the harder questions of the company. And that goes into they're hostile when challenged politely about competition. Like, nobody's doing this. This is ridiculous. Like, nobody's doing this. Okay, maybe you're the only one who figured out how to do like lateral movement detection in this particular way, but like there's 1,000 people dealing with exactly what the issue you think you're approaching is. So like if they can't see that at all, like, you're not going to get anywhere with them. So resistance to clarifying things, getting the sense that they're trying to make you feel lucky for being considered. And that is a big one. I think
I don't want to interrupt, but we only have 10 minutes and I want to make sure that we get to some questions. So
do you have a lot of questions?
We have at least 2. So, okay. Anyone else who has questions about, say, anything that Mimi spoke about today, I learned a lot of great stuff, like anything about the recruiting process or working at startups. Like, Mimi is your expert. So feel free to keep dropping those down in the chat box and in the Q&A section.
And everybody is welcome to, link in with me, and I'm happy to look at resumes. I'm happy to talk trajectory. I'm happy to talk to you early, even if you're not looking, about what you think you could be a good fit for. So feel free.
So here's one question. This is from earlier in your talk. So you were saying, and most of us here on this are marketers. So you had said something about evaluating the technology as being pretty important to knowing whether or not you're going into a good company. So how would someone who is not technical evaluate the technology at a prospect company?
That's a great question. So I would say like there's this thing that I like to call like investigative networking. It's where you get the most out of people, and it's like based on curiosity. So if you are like, let's say it's in like identity and access management space, so just go through your LinkedIn connections. This is where like LinkedIn's supposed to work like this, like you kind of reach out to someone and say, hey, I'm looking at a startup in this space. I see that you do this. Would you be open to like hearing a little bit about, the solution and kind of helping me think through it? You'll get like 100 people who want to do that with you. I would, I think asking to speak to a customer, that's a really bold one, but I have had people ask that. More than asking to speak to a happy customer, I have a lot of candidates who have their trusted mentor, like a cybersecurity practitioner who like they've had somehow, as a marketer or whatever, like ended up getting to know, had a couple of drinks with at RSA or whatever, and like, is a real friend, and they can go to them. And I would recommend having 1 or 2 of those. You can also just use your instinct. You're a marketer. So, look at the stuff from competitors, and, you can do research on Crunchbase, you can do research on Gartner, you can do a lot of really good research, not being technical. And I can speak to that because every time I bring on every one of my 25 companies, I like fully embody what they're doing before I can ever recruit for them. And so that's what I do. I just like read, I talk to people who I know I'll never get for the role. Let's say if it's like too early and the person's working for like a huge company, and I'll say like, tell me what, how am I going to attract somebody to this? I do that all the time. So you can do that on your end. Does that answer the question?
I think it does. I think that's great. You gave like 3 full steps on how to evaluate technology as a non-technical person. So that's awesome.
Okay.
So we have another question. So how can marketers who are coming from either the SMB or big co experience position themselves to be desirable to startups?
That's an amazing question. And I would say that's like my burning question. And I think it really speaks to this. Like, what do you, even in a big company, you know, you'll have experienced the flow. I'm big on this, like the flow. If you're doing a job that you should be doing, you know, every once in a while, the universe will gift you with a flow. And you'll like be in something and it's awesome and you just don't want to stop. And that is an indicator that that piece is what you could offer in a startup. Something, that's what I was talking about, like that thing that triggers your inner like latent workaholic. And so like in a larger company, you might have a lot of like boring parts or, you know, like corporate measures that are frustrating. You might also only be looking at smaller pieces of larger puzzles. But if you can like see yourself like offering a specific thing, that's where a startup is going to say like, okay, let's take a chance here because you can really bring this. And especially something you can show metrics in. I mean, like, I wonder if the person who asked that question wants to give out like a specific type of marketing.
Question asker, if you have more, drop it in the Q&A.
You know, just like a CMO, that might be hard, you know, but like, I think earlier on getting into cyber, getting into start, sometimes, you know, it's cyber specific, sometimes like getting into a startup, I think it's easier to do earlier. So that's, and like, and it is different depending on what your marketing stack looks like.
Awesome. Hey, Mimi, can you click on start?
Start?
Of just, I think at the bottom, that way we could just see your face for the last question.
Where? Oh, I thought I had started it. Sorry.
Or like, yeah.
It says unable to start. Do you give me permission to do that?
Yeah, I don't know why that's happening. Let's just keep moving on then. Okay, so
can you just see if you can undo my video?
I'll work on it. Well,
Okay.
because we have another question. So I think this is a burning one for a lot of people too. Right. So like a startup provides you with vision, with passion, with working in the flow, like you were saying during this, you know, you fall in you don't fall in love, but you fall in love. You have like you're not just a cog or a wheel in a big machine anymore. You have impact. But along with that, there's always the question of salary and benefits. So like Mimi, like what do you think about how to start up salary at the stage of companies that you typically work with? Like how does it compare? Like can you give any insight into like what people should expect or like anything like that? I know it's an interesting touchy subject, but you know, we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, no, that's something I have an opinion about. So like there's different opinions, you know, and I have my own. By the way, is there a way to make sure we save the comments? Because there's some really great comments I'd love to like reach back out at later. So this is what I'll say. Like the money making in a startup happens if you choose the right one, and your options that mean nothing when you join, like one day may mean something. And that's where you like make a lot of money. But generally my philosophy around salary with a startup, the only person who should be eating like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for 3 years is like the founders, or the founding team, maybe if they have a lot of, you know, equity. But like anyone beyond that, like I almost feel like it's the founders kind of like trauma projecting on the early team. Like they're like, they should be in this. They should have the passion we have. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so I think that like my philosophy here is that the pay should be industry standard. You cannot expect somebody who is not a founding person to be like lowering their, you know, you can't expect them to be like lowering their standard of living to join your startup. Like you just haven't given them enough, you know, like that's just like maybe once you start and then you go through a rough spot, maybe if you've really earned their trust, they'll stick with you and take a pay cut or whatever. But to bring somebody good on, you should expect to pay market value. And I think I always like to tell people like, know what your market value is. there are companies that grossly underpay. So know if you're in one of those companies, and just know, like, and I'm not talking about Glassdoor, because Glassdoor doesn't account for cybersecurity. It doesn't account for startups. Like, it doesn't account for the fact that like somebody needs a product marketer who knows identity and access management and can write white papers. Like they're willing to pay more for that. But you got to know like what you're worth. And that's something that sometimes I can help people with because I speak to a lot of people there. But just don't be afraid to ask people what they make, in different companies, especially bigger companies, because it's like nobody really is like private about that. And then obviously not a company that maybe you want to go to, but just get real numbers from people if you think that you may be underpaid. And then when you're going to a new company, the recruiter will always say, where are you at and where do you want to be? So I just recommend about like, if you're in a good spot and you like your job, make sure you're getting a raise. I think $20,000 a year is a lot unless you're really, really moving into a much larger role. But if you're moving into a more or less lateral role, but it's a riskier company or whatever it is, I think like a $10,000 difference is a nice one, just to kind of like make you feel excited. But yeah, like I think the philosophy rounds out about like, this isn't going to be your high salary thing. And I will say one thing, that startups that try to compete on salary, as a recruiter, that is a red flag for me. I think that means there's reasons why they can't pay what it would normally be paid, and that they're not attracting people for the right reasons.
Oh, that's a really interesting perspective.
That's just my thing. Like if you're like, oh my God, they're offering like $50,000 more than what the industry rate is, and like, I got to take that, right? So I would do so much more due diligence on sales, on personalities in the company before I would take a job like that.
Wow. That is that's a great take. That's a hot take, I think.
Ooh, cool. We end on a hot take. I love it.
So we have at least two more questions, but we're out of time. Could you do like a 20-second answer to this one? It seems pretty short.
It's very hard for me to do 20-second answers.
So a startup isn't a sure thing, but in your experience, is it 1 in 100, 1 in 10?
Oh, that's interesting. I think I can't speak to that. I think there are actual specific statistics on that. Let's see. It's rough. And also, I'm just going to point it back to, it's not always subjective. Like, are you going to get rich, like insanely rich? That's a big one. Like you're going to hit the lottery, but will you have a great job where you'll really make a significant dent in the company's, future? Like that's a different question. But there are statistics about startups that you can look up. I think it's actually worse than that. I think it's like 1 in 1,000 or something. I don't know.
All right.
I don't want to quote. I think it may be even worse, but they're risky.
Don't worry.
They're risky, but exciting for a lot of different reasons. So anyway, thank you so much for listening to me. It was kind of weird to like just speak and not get to see your faces responding. So any feedback would be awesome.
All right. So I have to say the goodbyes for this session. We have our next session starting in just 3 minutes with Meg Barry of Exonius, who's going to be talking about demand gen red flags, which anyone in demand gen you should go watch, and how to see the iceberg before you hit it and avoid being a demand generation Titanic. So everybody, thanks so much for attending this. We do have your questions in the chat. I know a few weren't answered, so Mimi can follow up with you guys directly afterwards, and feel free to out with her. We're going to include her information in our virtual goodie bag, which we send out with our daily email every night after the conference. So make sure to see that, to look out for that. And thanks so much. And thank you, Mimi, for being an awesome panelist.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Bye, everybody.